My guests for this finale of Pavement Week are Scott Kannberg, aka Spiral Stairs of Pavement, and Robert Greene, the producer and editor of the new documentary Pavements. Scott is a founding member of the band Pavement, playing guitar as well as singing lead on songs such as Date with IKEA, Two States, Hit the Plane Down, and Kennel District. He's also released albums with his band Preston School of Industry, as well as 4 solo records under the name Spiral Stairs. Robert Greene's most recent film, Procession, was distributed by Netflix, nominated for an Emmy, an Independent Spirit Award, a Peabody, and was shortlisted for the Academy Award for Best Documentary. Most recently, he produced and edited both Pavements and The Featherweight. And some of his other films include the Gotham Award-nominated Bisbee 17, which aired on the PBS POV series, and the Sundance Award-winning Kate Plays Christine. And it's my great pleasure to welcome the Revolutions Per Movie and the finale of Pavement Week, Scott Kannberg and Robert Greene. Hi, everybody.
What's up, buddy?
Are you talking to me, or I don't know who's buddy yet?
Everyone's buddy. We're all
okay,
buddy.
Cool.
We're already buddy. We're already to the buddy stage. We just started, and we're buddying up.
Okay, well, it's good to see you both. I appreciate it. This has been kind of a relentless week. I talked to Lance Bangs about the first Pavement documentary. I talked to Rebecca Clay Cole about her time in Pavement and the movie Pavements. I talked to your Stockton peers, Brian Thalkin and Jeffrey Clark, who made the amazing Gary Young documentary. But I wanted to ask you, Spiral, may I call you Spiral? Is that okay?
Sure.
You've got one of the greatest names of all time. That film was so beautiful and emotional, the film about Gary Young. I was really touched. I had not really seen Pavement be so vulnerable in a way at this point when I saw the film. When were you brought in, and what did you want to say about Gary's life and involvement?
Yeah, I guess I was brought in. I guess I heard about the idea back in, oh God, I don't even know. It was a while ago when those guys said they'd been out to Gary's, and Jeffrey was wanted to do like a little short film kind of about that experience going out there, because it's his house and compound is just, it's a trip. And
yeah, it looked amazing.
You know, his whole world's a trip. And so, yeah, Jeff and Brian go way back with Gary, and way farther than I was. So, yeah, they just kind of said, hey, we've got this, we're working on this. And then I didn't really hear anything for a while. And then they said, listen, we're actually thinking about making this into a longer thing, because we've gone out there again and done a bunch of filming. It might have even been a few years, maybe even 5 years later. And so I was like, cool, whatever help you need, I'm here for you. So,
all right.
I just, I kind of went through all my stuff, found a bunch of old photos, found some, just kind of tracked down some old videos of us playing. And then kind of in the, kind of near the end of where they were trying to do stuff, my dad found this box of old tapes, VHS tapes.
Yeah, they mentioned that. Yeah. They said it was very brave of you to just hand it over sight unseen to them.
Yeah, so there was some great footage in that of us kind of, during the very first time we toured, we went to Gary's house in Mamaroneck, and we there's this great scenes of us on the boat. And I think we use those. I think Robert uses some of that stuff again as well in Pavements. And
yes,
it's great to see us and Gary in those kind of very young days.
Oh, it's very touching, and I love it's just a full circle movie where there's some peace found in it that's kind of surprising and lovely. But I did want to ask you, I don't think I've ever read about it or heard you talk about it, but the Watery Domestic EP, can I ask where you were as a band when you made that? Because to me, that's the Fall making slates, right? Between Grotesque and Hex Induction Hour. It's like you making this leap from Slanted and Enchanted into Crooked Rain. Where were you when you made that? Were you already kind of wrapping it up with Gary, or was it?
No, not at all. We were
okay.
We were still pretty entrenched with Gary. That was just kind of after we did Slant. It was quite a time after Slanted, but it was just a moment when Steve came home to visit his parents, and we were like, let's go in and record these songs. And we actually, it wasn't, I'm sure like when the fall we're recording Slates, there was like a drug filled, like great experience. But for us, it was just like, we had to record during like the daytime because there was a lady across the street who complained about the noise. And so it was,
Uh-huh.
it was very, very, very simple and easy. But yeah, I mean, we did try. Yeah, that was a really kind of cool time because I don't think Slanted was out yet.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, yeah, it wasn't out yet because we were still kind of, we did, but I think we recorded Slanted and Watery before we actually did anything with them before we went to Matador.
Wow, so you're still like making music in a vacuum, still,
Yeah.
like in terms of like
Yeah.
cultural impact and stuff. Oh, that's amazing.
But Gary, we tried to record Crooked Rain with Gary, which was going to be Crooked Rain. So a lot of, there's a few of those songs on the Crooked Rain reissue where you can hear us trying to do it with Gary. But that didn't work out too well. That was the last.
He had the longest drum roll of all time, which I loved. I loved his drum fills with like 16 seconds long.
Yeah, he loved to whack on those drums, as you like to say, beat the shit out of them, whatever he said.
I just want to say quickly that I am grateful to Louder Than You Think because for Pavements, it was so great. We were editing the film, and the Gary as a character, it sort of is the biggest character in the history of the Pavement story, right? Like,
Yep.
of course, right? Like,
Yep.
everybody else is just kind of normal, and then there's Gary.
Yeah.
But the fact that film is so good, and the fact that film hits those emotional chords that you're talking about, Chris, and is able to give us, sort of this closure with Gary before he passed.
Yeah.
Allowed us in the editing of Pavements to not have to dwell on it, and like we obviously touch on Gary, but there's a much better film about Gary, and that's Louder Than You Think. And I think it's and I as a lifelong Pavement fan, I remember being like, well, of course there would be two Pavement movies that come out right next to each other, like, and as nothing ever makes any damn sense with this band, so here we are.
Oh no, it's so true. I mean, you open the film by saying, Pavement broke up in 1999, and it wasn't that big a deal. And I talked to Lance Bangs about this. In our head, Pavement were like huge. Like we were like, they're massive. They've been on Matador for 5 records. Every time I see them, it's full. But then you forget like how small the world is, and like everybody you knew had those records, but you went 30 miles outside of Chicago and people didn't. And it's just still shatters my mind because the myth making of Pavements is very large in the way that this film is set up. Robert, you've worked with Alex Ross Perry before on other films. How did this whole thing come together?
Well, yeah, so the legend, everything to do with this movie seems like half made up, and at least 60% of it is made up, I would say, right, Spiral? Like so like the thing that I had heard was that Malcolm said something to the effect of, hey, I want to make if we're going to make a film. I guess Matador approached Malcolm and Steven said, well, we're not going to use a documentary filmmaker. We should get a screenwriter, and enter Alex Ross Perry, who I've edited his last several films, and we've been friends for a really long time. I think it's ironic because me as a documentary director, I produced and edited the film. We ended up having to do a lot of real documentary work towards the second half of this film, trying to get everybody to understand what the hell we were trying to do and why they should let us continue to do it. So it's right. So, and I don't even, and the thing is I don't even know if did Steven even say this, who knows, right? Either way, I remember it was like 2021 or so. I get a call from Alex, and he's like, I'm going to make a fiction, you know, I want to make a fiction documentary hybrid film with a fake biopic, a fake musical, and a real fake museum about Pavement. I know they're your favorite band. Are you in? And I was basically like, well, that's the kind of movies I make, and you're just ripping off my style. And yeah, if you I like I'm you're not allowed to make this without me. And he was like, okay, fine. So that's the kind of relationship we have. Like, he knows, we know we need each other, but we also will argue about it. And so he started, you know, I just love, to me, the whole thing. And really what gets back to Louder Than You Think, there's no better way to make a Gary Young film than that, right? You really just, you just spend time, you luxuriate in this man, right? And all his contradictions and bullshit and beauty and
Right.
all of it, right? Like, that's what's so great about that film. To me, that the thing that was interesting about Pavement was that the idea of the band, that's the idea of being in a band. There's so many lyrics that Malcolm is, and you, Spiral, you wrote lyrics like this too, where it's like, it's kind of like, why am I here? Why am I in this band? Why is everybody making a big deal about this? Like, I don't even really know what I'm supposed to be doing. And then every single record was a comment on the previous record. And everything, and it's like, oh, you thought you knew what we were, but we're gonna just switch it up because we're just restless and we're smart and we're cool and we're interested in music and we want to do different things. And so for me, Alex's original concepts really got at the heart of that thing that I actually liked about the band. And I was like, because I was like, yeah, I mean, how would you make a Pavement band? They're just normal, cool dudes who, you know, hang out, and then, you know, they got back together sort of, or whatever, and then they kind of did again later, maybe, I don't know. I just loved it. I just loved it. And I was like, and I knew that Alex's best quality, he's a writer, obviously, but his best quality is that he's willing to do stunts and piss people off. So like, only Alex could have been like, yeah, we're gonna actually try to pull off a musical,
Right.
which now that the band has like conquered the world for several years of touring, and like my daughter's favorite band is Pavement, and like a lot of my students and at you know, where I teach, like they're all Pavement fans. There's a lot of younger Pavement fans now. This idea of a biopic and a museum and a musical, none of this seems very absurd anymore. But when we started talking about it, it was just the dumbest, stupidest, funniest idea that we could think of. And that's how we kind of dove in, I think.
But is it hard, Spiral, to let go of something that, I mean, again, all I had was the records and, you know, passing you in a club and seeing you live and making judgments, being like, I remember the first time I saw Pavement, I was like, I hope I never meet the singer of this band, Steven, because he's in a bad mood and I don't like, you know, early on already, I was making these judgments. And then he moves to Portland and I'm like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah, right.
You know? but like, is it hard as a band that I wouldn't say Pavement always seemed guarded, but like definitely, you know, I never got a sense of like, oh, I'm spending time with Mark Eibold. I know exactly who he is.
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't really like they were let into our lives, you know. It was more like Alex kind of just, I think he just wrote, or no, he called everybody, and he just kind of, we just talked to him about our experiences with everything. And you know, he just kind of wrote down everything, and I think kind of went from there. Um and kind of just wrote this crazy story. And I mean, that's the weirdest part about it for me, is that you know, for the longest time, I mean, even though Pavement's been my life, and you know, everything's, my life's kind of been about Pavement besides other things, but you know, like, that's my, I just never really thought about it, thought about Pavement for a long time. You know, yeah, of course, I'm dealing with the business side of it and everything for a really long time, and but the music and the lyrics and the experience of it, I kind of blacked it out for a while.
Sure.
And even in 2010 when we did that, it was like, you know, like, ask me what happened during those shows, and I really don't remember. Um, but, and even kind of some of the early stuff, and this whole experience has brought all that back. And you know, at the end of Pavement, it was kind of a bummer, you know. So maybe that's why I didn't I didn't really want to think about it, but all of this, all the Gary stuff and all of the Pavements movie just brought back all of these kind of great memories and great times, and and what Alex kind of got from it. It's hard because like it's supposed to be kind of fake, but you know what? It's right on the edge. And it's like, oh shit, like when we saw the fake biopic, I'm like, oh, that's just a little too close to the edge.
Oh, it's so weird because yeah, you're overwhelmed by the casting in the musical, and is that going to work, and the museum, and you're
Mm,
trying to like figure out like, well, what is fake, what's real.
yeah,
But then there's surprisingly again quite a few moments where you're really frank, like the moment where you're talking about, I was going to drive a bus, that's what I was going to do,
yeah,
and then I
yeah,
get a call and I get to be in Pavement again. And
yeah,
it's something that I don't think a lot of people think about, but it's the reality is like, yeah, people often don't get to be a musician forever. Bands are made to break up. And,
yeah,
to have a band that just keeps kind of, like you said, you kind of get pulled in and now you're realizing how much of your life it was and how
yeah.
great it was. It's kind of nice that there's at least a sense now that, yeah, there was something there that was pleasurable at some point.
Yeah, and it's doing the tour, this last tour, really, it was amazing, and being part of, having them come and film a lot of the shows, and being part of the movie experience, going to the museum, and doing all that, really, it was, I don't know, it was amazing experience.
So, Robert, I remember hearing about the film in the press before seeing it, obviously. And, one of the first things I read was like Steven kind of knocking it around, being like, oh, it felt like a prank. But obviously the film had changed since what he saw initially. So, how do you put a film like this together with all these different fake storylines, archival footage, split screen? I'm assuming it just changed radically from, when you first started to the end.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, part of the fun of this was that everybody agreed from the beginning, well, we don't really want you to film us. So, which is a great start for a documentary.
What did they mean by that?
Well, I think I mean, that the idea of like peering into people's lives and getting, doing the sort of normal documentary stuff, like day-to-day life stuff. That was, we weren't interested in that, and the band wasn't interested in us filming that. And that's not because the guys aren't interesting, it's because we were ultimately interested in the ideas of the band. I mean, it's funny to hear Spiral be so humble about this. I mean, to me, Pavement is one of the great art projects ever. Like, it's like,
Absolutely.
it's one of the great bands of the 90s, sure. It's my favorite band of all time, yeah. But like, I think as an art project, it was just a good art project for a really long time, and really affected my life in such a powerful way. Like, I wouldn't be making films if it weren't for having fallen in love with Pavement in college, so like, so that's what we wanted to get at, right? So
Hmm.
like, how do you do that? And I'll come back to Malcolmus's Vanity Fair quote, because I think there's some insight we can share on his thoughts and what was going on with that, because actually that was quite annoying to everybody, including him.
Yeah,
Uh, and I don't want to speak for him, obviously, but I can tell you what I've
Sure.
heard. Anyway, in terms of putting the film together, it was the original concept, was that we kind of just like loosely talked about, was let's watch all these parts as separate parts, meaning like, let's watch the musical, let's watch the fiction film. And then immediately I was like, well, the thing that is actually working, and this is how where my documentary instincts and sort of my fandom kind of overlapped. I was like, seeing the footage that Rob Kolodny, the director of photography of the film, seeing what he got in Portland when they were just starting to get back together, I was like, this is great documentary material. And it's undeniable documentary material. And it's what kind of like makes you, it had an emotional core to it, because you're watching guys in their 50s reliving this thing, getting back together and kind of liking each other. And for me as a Pavement fan, I was like, I've never seen Pavement like Pavement so much.
Yes, I
You
know
know,
what you mean.
I've never seen Malcolmus like enjoy it. I've never seen Scott like be vulnerable working through these songs that he had to relearn after all these years, right? Like, so that kind of vulnerability and that humanity was like, oh, this is actually a doc on a documentary level. There's more going on here, and a lot of that is because Rob shot the hell out of it and made it amazing. And then so that was where the whole thing started from, is kind of like, let's actually get to the heart of something a little bit more. So in terms of directly answering your question, it's just the trick of the film is that it's actually all just in sequential order. We start from the beginning. We start with the couple of like setup things, and then we're back in Stockton in the very beginning, and then the next thing happens, and the next thing happens, and the next thing happens. And what we do is we insert the multiple storylines. They're all growing, and they take over when that point in the storyline, when the music gets to that point. So Range Life is about Wowee Zowee era, right? So the Range Life fiction film that's inside this film takes over when we get to the Wowee Zowee era, and we get to the Lollapalooza stuff, right? So once that so it was kind of like, we took a lot of inspiration from some bunch of films that had multiple storylines that sort of, string along together and pay off in a similar way. And really, like, I mean, I found myself, there was parts where I was editing songs to stock footage of Stockton, California, and I was like, I feel like I've already done this already as a fan of the band. I was always like, oh yeah, you need this archival clip that I've seen 100 times and put it next
Right.
to this. And like, I just felt like I could, like, like a DJ who knows the records, I could kind of like pull this shit all together and do something with it. And it was the most fun I ever had editing. I've edited like countless movies, and this is the most fun I've ever had.
Oh, it's amazing. And again, when I talked to Lance Banks, he sang your praises over and over again, just said how brilliant you are. And I was going to ask you, like, you're a director too. I know you have a relationship with Alex, but like, is it hard, like, not to direct something this, or do you feel like you do while you edit? You still get to direct it in a way.
I mean, my official title is producer and editor, but there was multiple. I mean, look, Alex and I are really good collaborators in a sense that he's great because he knows what he can and can't do well, and then he lets the other people on the team do what he can, and that's being a great director, right? So like, he knew that there was times where it's like, you as a documentary filmmaker need to get on this phone call with Chris Lombardi, who's having a meltdown because, A, B, C, or D. Or when Spiral and I connected, it really was about like, what is this thing? What is the point of this thing? And can you help me work through that? And that's documentary filmmaking. So like, that's
Right.
the as a director, that's the kind of stuff I do all the time. So anyway, back to this Malcolmus Vanity Fair reaction piece.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he's quoted in this article, basically saying he thinks it's a prank. He wasn't really sure. He's talking about an earlier cut, and he was pretty annoyed, and they had to actually correct the article. And apparently this is not something, Steven is prone to do. He doesn't really necessarily go out there and say, hey, correct the record, because he gets misquoted or misunderstood all the time. He's been misunderstood for 30 plus years, right?
Yeah.
But he was pretty annoyed because it seemed like he was undercutting the film. And although I think he has a funny relationship with it, I don't think he's ever gonna fully watch. I mean, he's not a person like most of the guys that are gonna sit there and watch the movie. That's so weird, and like, it's a very strange film to be made about you.
Sure.
And by the way, only Pavement and only Matador could we ever work with together to make this film. Like, every other band in history would stop this from happening. So I just want to shout out to the band. And I think, yeah, he was basically saying an earlier cut, which is probably the cut of Range Life that he's talking about, it was a prank. And I think he's supportive. He shows up, he talks about the movie. He's enjoying it. I think he's enjoying the idea that we made a piece of art, to sound as pretentious as possible, out of the art that he spent so much time working on.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's all he kind of wanted from the beginning, is like, make something interesting. And I think he knows that we did that.
Yeah. Spiral, do you feel like after seeing the musical, do you think Pavement's music can transcend genres and, be an actual theatrical piece, like, after seeing it?
Yeah, I mean, in that context, it totally opened up the songs to a different dimension for me, you know, like it just made the lyrics, more important. And you know, like when we were just making the records, it was like, oh, Steve would make up these lyrics and you're like, oh, that's great, yeah, that's cool, you know, like, yeah, you're trying to be Paul Westerberg there, and yeah, you're you know, you're good, those are great, yeah, that rhymes, cool. And you know, I mean, you never I think we just thought about it how we thought about it. And when as time has gone on, I mean, it's like people have, you know, have their different ways of explaining it. And with the musical, it yeah, it made me think about it in a much different way, you know. I mean, you know, still he's still trying to be like Paul Westerberg, but
It's so vulnerable what they're doing, you know, like on this stage, and really wild to see that portion of it. Because right at the beginning, what's also interesting is like you immediately lay out this film is going to be a fake biopic, it's going to be a museum, it's going to be about casting this musical that's going to be on, you know, the off Broadway thing. It's like you lay it all out at the top, you know. And I thought that was a really interesting choice instead of like surprising people later on by having one scene that's got like, you know, Jason Schwartzman and Tim Heidecker in it. You know, it's like you're waiting for these things and you're giving little glimpses. And I thought that was really, along with your use of a dual screen, split screen, that was also really brilliant when, for instance, the Lollapalooza situation
oh,
totally changed my like thinking on what went down, how the band reacted. And if people haven't seen the footage of the Lollapalooza show, there, what city was it in?
Morgantown, no, somewhere in West
West
Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically it's a muddy pit and people start throwing stuff at you during your set. And you were even told they're going to throw stuff at you. And I'd seen that footage before in Slow Century, and it was just really hard to watch like Steven get hit hard in the chest with something and just kind of like walk off, you know, because it's like it sucks, right? And then you flip off the audience, you're screaming at them, you BA them, and then I'm just like, oh fuck, man, people suck, you know, like this is what a bunch of morons. And in this film, like seeing the fake actors reenact it as you're showing the other thing, and then what actually you guys felt like backstage, you're like laughing it off so hard
Yeah.
and just showing each other the bruises. And it's like, I was like, oh yeah, that's what bands do. Like they kind of roll with it. They kind of laugh things off.
Well, that whole tour was kind of like that, you know. It was you go up there to play, and you know you're playing to like, you know, 20 people up way up in the top, and you're kind of, you know, I mean, all you could do is kind of laugh anyway. You know?
It's so weird. I never imagined Pavement playing the 20 people at a certain point
Right.
ever, but it happened. It's weird.
And of course, for if you were making a terrible rock and roll musical biopic, you would have to dramatize that as much as possible and make it as you take this really dumb moment that is like, yeah, I think it's pathetic and sad and ill-fitting, and you know, a great band in a weird situation, and also like maybe it does feel like the end of something dumb, like Lollapalooza. At that tour was like, I went to that tour. It was just sort of like, yeah, these are all great bands, but like, why are we here? What, like, this feels so really antithetical to the entire idea of listening to this music in the first place. It's like, I saw Pearl Jam at the same thing, and I saw Metallica the next year after. And it's like, why is just was like dumb. And then, but a bad biopic, of course, would try to make that as like this turning point for the band. And Schwartzman says, the band that ruined Lollapalooza. Is that what you want your legacy to be?
Yeah.
And I think like Alex's nose for just like Alex is one of these guys that watches a lot of shitty movies, and you can tell.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can tell, and he loves them, and he'll defend them, and then like a good movie comes along, and he's like, "This is trash," and we're all like, "Alex, you have bad taste." And then, but that allows him to write these things and know for sure that like you know the Bohemian Rhapsody of Pavement would have the dramatic mud thing. At the same time, the way they played up the musical gets at this like sort of the punkishness of the whole thing, right? Which is like, you know, Scott up there showing his ass literally. It's kind of punk rock too. Like, so like the musical brings out that side of it. And you know, I mean, can you imagine how much fun I had editing that together? That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I love when he says, I know you can give the 100% of the 50% I know you can give.
It's like it's the 100% of the 50% I know you can get. It's like, that is a great line.
It is
written
so funny.
written by a person who, yeah, I think that probably come from some interview that someone said at some point, something.
So the script originally, was that longer? Because originally you said you were going to film it like, okay, we're going to show the musical, then we're going to show the script. What was the original idea of casting people? And
There was more script. What you see in the film and what will be extended on like the Blu-ray release, you see the script, the table reads. You can get a glimpse of some of the other scenes that we're supposed to film. One of the things that happened is that we just all the strikes like shut everything down. Basically, we were like we were against the wall, and it was like, and just like everything to do with Pavement, high concept, big ideas, no money. Like that was our winning formula here, Chris.
okay.
So basically it was like, again, and this is like our producer Craig Buda, our producer Peter Klein, Alex Needles, and Danny Gabay, and then the Matador team. Like they all like, we were pulling favors, texting people, calling people. People were excited about it. I mean, Alex, you know, the movies Alex makes are weird and wild, and actors love to be in them. So that was a big part of it. That, you know, so we got people to agree to do stuff. The writer's strike had just hit, so we couldn't change anything. So it was basically like it had locked in like what the script was, so we couldn't even improvise anything.
Wow.
So it was just like a very narrow thing to pull off. And so what you see, but by that time I had been editing for a while, so we kind of knew we didn't need this to do more than it needed to do. And in fact, like in the final version of the movie, the best version of the fiction film is when it's playing off against other things and you know, commenting on other things, so you can kind of see these multiple versions of reality, if you will. But so that was the original idea, was there was going to be more to film. Ultimately that had to be scaled back for a lot of reasons, but by the time we filmed it, we knew the scaled back would work for what we needed.
Right. I really loved Joe Carey winning photos of Stephen Malkmus's throat.
I just want to say a word about Joe. So somehow Joe manages to be super sincere in a mockumentary. Basically, he's in his own mockumentary while everybody's in their own movie, basically, this entire movie. Like, and he happens to be in his own mockumentary. And then, but when action, and he's playing Malkmus, he manages to conjure, and this is kind of what you were saying before, Spiral, I think. He conjures this like emo sad boy version of Malkmus that is not accurate, but is somehow gets to the heart of something very real, which is kind of like this smart guy who's just like, why am I in this room? And this is dumb. And I think Joe gives a great performance. I think it's like a genuinely fantastic performance. And if you consider that he's also acting in all the mockumentary stuff, I think Joe it would be quite beautiful if he gets some award consideration, considering that the whole film is a fake play on getting awards consideration. Let's start the Joe Carey for Indie Spirit Awards right now.
All right.
Yeah, and he had to go through some process to Malcolmize his voice after the process too, which I appreciated the hours he put in.
That was really
that
good.
Fry is real. That fry is real.
Is it weird, Spiral, to be like, all right, this guy, Nat Wolff, is supposed to be me? Or what did it just, I don't know. That must have been just so weird.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. No, it was cool. It was, you know, I thought he did a pretty good job. he had my he had my hair back then for sure.
Because the script is really like still the dynamic. They're wanting to play into the dynamic of you and Steven behind closed doors. Like,
Yeah.
whether it's after a show or after making a record or before. And, and then you're having someone just, they know you, they've done interviews with you, but they're speculating and they're dramatizing it and they're having fun with it.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever want to be like, oh, I wish this part of our truth could be in here? Or is it more fun to just be like, it is what it is?
No, because it's like I said, it's right on the edge of truth, but then you're like, well, maybe that's not really the way it was, I mean, only we'll know.
Yeah, and it's not the kind of film that you're going to sit down and be like, this is the pedal I used.
Yeah,
This is the tone. This is how our interplay was. It's not that kind of film.
I mean, honestly, can you imagine how bad that film would be? I mean, no offense, Spiral, but God, like it's like I feel like imagine a film about the strange tuning. I mean, we could go on and on and on and on. It would just be
the world's full of them.
Yeah, the world's full of them, and those are bad movies. And the reason why those are bad movies is because you can't. I mean, with all due love and respect to every musician I've ever heard on NPR, those are my least favorite segments of talk radio, right? Like because I'm like, I don't want to hear you talking about this. Like, I want to listen to the music because music transcends the talking. That's the point of music.
Yeah.
So. But the thing about Pavement was that the band, the records, the songs are so full of ideas. And what I was shocked by when we started putting it together was like, you, Spiral, and Steven are like getting into the heart of like, yeah, we were walking around looking at postmodern art and we were thinking of postmodernism. And I was like, as a nerdy fan, that shit really resonates with me. And I was like, and of course, with Malcolmus, the editing technique is you gotta like cut him off before he contradicts himself, because then his standard sentence structure is he says something, contradicts that, and then contradicts the contradiction, which is another way of looking at the first 3 Pavement records. They're all like, a sentence, a contradiction, and then a contradiction. Yeah. But if you just let him say the thing and you edit him, he tells you what the music was actually inspired by.
Yeah.
And when he says things like, I don't know why I imitate the Eagles when I don't like the Eagles. It's like, I know why you imitate the Eagles when you don't like the Eagles, because the Eagles made great songs. You actually like the Eagles. And you're also making fun of the fact that we're all like, is he going to sound like the Eagles? I mean, it's just like, it's like those layers and layers of how we listen to the music and how we engage with the band. That's what the movie needed to be about. And luckily, I've spent way too much time thinking about this crap. So it all came flowing out whenever Alex, threw these, semi half-baked, half-cooked ideas towards me. I was able to put it together. And I think, Scott, I would say, and I would love to, I think that's why it rings true for you, because it's like, it gets at something that is kind of unspeakable. It gets at something that's deeper.
My whole thing with Pavement from day one has always been kind of keeping a sense of mystery there. And I think Steve does a really good job with that. Where the mystery kind of gets peeled away is when we talk about it. And but in some ways, like you said, Steve talks in the contradictions. It just adds to the mystery. And I don't know. It's just something that we always we were lucky with kind of being able to have this mystery. People didn't understand, like, why is there this band who doesn't live in the same town? Why is the band, making these weird records, and, what does it mean? And so I think, I think this film, especially, there's some mystery to it. And I'm happy that they've nailed that.
Yeah, well, Pavement was in an era where I read about you. But I read about this bi-coastal band. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I read about this drummer that was like standing on his head. And I was like, I got to see the band. It was like, it was a lot of mystery and myths. And I feel like this is it seems like also, Robert, a very hard film to make because you're very close to it. And there's so much, like you said, you could go in so many different directions with the archival footage way, the story route way. It seems like it made the film that in the end, for Steven, who was like, oh, just have someone do it who's a screenwriter, he kind of got what he asked for.
Oh yeah, he got. Did anyone get what they Is anything what we asked for? I don't know about that,
but you know what I mean. Like he didn't want it to be traditional.
It certainly wasn't traditional, and I think the thing is that we ultimately took the most inspiration from Wowee Zowee, which just turned 30. Wowee Zowee was a record that, like, I remember this quote that was probably misattributed to Malcolm when it came out. I don't know if you remember this, Scott, but he said, like, oh, it's a great record to listen to on shuffle, to put it on CD and listen to on shuffle. And I remember being like so excited by the idea, because CDs were just like a thing, and we're like, that's a cool idea. But then because it's I fell in love with that record on such an extreme way. I was like, no, every single thing about this record is perfect. The way that I cannot predict what is the next sound that's going to come in. And yet when it locks in, and when you become accustomed to the record, and you just get fully immersed, like any great record, with the sequence, with how it builds as a narrative, and then ultimately what happens at the end of the record, which is there's a perfect ending. And then the band says, nah, fuck you. We're gonna add another layer, and we're gonna add 2 more songs. You thought you were done, and then of course, if you owned it on vinyl, there's a 4th side that's blank.
Yeah,
and that is the inspiration for the structure of this movie, right? Like, it's a 3-sided movie, and that the great Steve West coined that term at the Venice Festival, and we are sticking to it as if it was marketing materials. Westy can make up anything, and we will follow him to the ends of the earth. But that idea of something that seems, when you first look at it, like it's wobbling out of control, like it's almost like, this is too much, but then when you take a step back, you're actually like, wait, I went on a kind of incredible emotional journey, and it is absolutely too much. Like, this is an objectively too much movie. But you wouldn't want to pull any of those threads, because then it gets a little less interesting. And if it's 10% less interesting, then it doesn't speak to what we think is this great art project called Pavement, right? Like, so it has to keep doing that. And that's just like the record Wowee Zowee. That's why when I put that record on, I do not listen to songs. I listen to the record. And I think the movie hopefully earns that comparison.
Yeah, I love that it ends on Western Homes too. It's just like such a great. I always loved that song as the closer of that record, because it really comes in with such a different energy. I'm like, is this like the Residents energy? What's going on? It was so cool. And then to have the film end with that power, that kind of weirdo energy that you wrote that song, Spiral, it's killer.
Yeah.
It's got to be. It had to be the ending, because we. Like, I think that I could probably waste half your life talking you through the second half of the film, starting with We Dance and ending with Western Homes, and tell you how it matches up to Wowee Zowee. I'll never hopefully no one will ever ask me to do that, because then my career will be over, because I'll just be exposed as a total nerd.
Well, maybe it'll be that thing where you sync up the records like you do with Dark Side of the Moon and Wizard of Oz, and you're like, really, if you put on the second song.
Did you really do that? Did you really do that, Robert?
I'm not answering this question. I'm willing to go nerd, but yeah, this is too much.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Western Homes, and I love that it's Scott's song, and it's a perfect ending of the movie.
Hearing you talk about just the power of those records, getting them in real time, there's a few bands, REM, Pavement was another one where I remember where I was when I got those records. Yeah, when Wowee Zowee, I was with Sam Coombs-Akwasi in his apartment, right? We were just like, all right, we got the new Pavement. It came out this week. Let's do it. Bright in the Corners was on tour in Europe. Like, we're taking on our day off. We're sitting down with it in a stranger's house in Germany and listening to it. Those are really, it's kind of great that Pavement was that band, because those albums were like special, and they really did feel like I don't know what I'm getting with this fourth one. Okay, now I know what I got with the fourth one. I don't know what I'm getting with the fifth one.
Yeah, I wrote a review of Brighten the Corners in college, and I was like, they've proven themselves to be right before. We should give them a chance to be right this time, or something like that. So Spiral, I have a question for you. So all this talk, you're smiling a lot. So does some of this stuff, like, is it seeping in what you did? Honestly, like, is it really seeping in how important this band was to a lot of people? You've heard for 30 plus years all of these people talking about how important the band is, but I just want to know, is it seeping in?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's always seeped in with people's with fans, you know. I mean, I was always, but this, yeah, the last 4 or 5 years of this thing really, um, I don't know, it made me love the band even more, you know, and I mean, you know, when you do these records, you listen, you know, you make the songs and you're obsessed by it, and you're obsessed by the recording of it, you're obsessed by the mixing of it, just, you know, just like you, Robert, with editing, you know, you're obsessed with, then comes the song order, then comes the artwork, then comes the shows, you know, and you're just, it's, everything's about it. And you know, so it's, I don't know, it's you forget a lot of things. You forget about what it means to, this has made me love it even more, you know, because you forget about all that stuff, and seeing the stuff on screen and reliving it all, and playing the songs again, you know, it makes you proud of what you've done, and thank you for helping facilitate that.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, I will allow myself to get sentimental for a second. It's like, yeah, it's a dream for me, man. It's a dream because, like, I I I can't imagine even being like the person that I want to be without with those records intervening into my life at the right moment, right? Like, just hearing someone who made me feel cool and smart, and like that I could know more about the world. There's something about those songs, that the elusiveness, the mystery that you're talking about, and then the poetry of the lyrics, and then the angular this and the transformative that, and like it's the surprise, just like really made me go, God, I want to make art. And then the fact that we get to do this
Yeah.
is yeah, meaningful. And I'm it means a lot to me, and I hope, and I know it means a lot to you too, Scott. It means a lot to me that people say we captured the magic of the band.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, I said from the beginning, I was like, I don't give a shit if people who were never going to like Pavement like this movie.
Mm.
I don't like, I think that that's a stupid thing to chase. Like, I think to talk about bad music films, I think that's a lot of times what's happening is like, oh, let's like dumb this down for a mass audience.
Right.
Yeah.
I, but I also, it wasn't just about super fans either. It was about the people that could be convinced or could understand this thing that existed for a very brief amount of time and then mattered for a much longer time, right? Like, and the fact that some fans say, like, you know, you got it, and that it seems to be bringing in new fans, which really mostly you guys did that. I mean, you guys did that with the tour and showing up and actually playing shows that were good rather than bad.
It's nice when that happens.
Yeah, I also love that between you and REM, there were the two bands that when I first saw a photo, I got every band member wrong. I'm like, oh, that must be the drummer. That's got to be the singer. And I was like, 5 out of 5. I was wrong. I was like,
Really?
I think I had Bob as the lead singer and stuff like that. But that's kind of the magic of it, you know?
He's the lead singer a third of the time.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Since Robert's on the line, let's talk about this soundtrack we're doing. Robert put together this great soundtrack from the movie,
Uh-huh.
and we did a bunch of it's a bunch of songs that that we played live on the tour, and also from our Portland sessions that we were rehearsals. And yeah, Robert kind of put together a bunch of other. I mean, it's kind of your stuff. It's kind of your baby here. Uh, talk about it a little bit, Robert.
Yeah, what is it?
It's a strange baby. I mean, I think it's, imagine some version of the movie as a soundtrack. I mean,
Okay.
it's like a little bit inspired by the Monkey's Head or something, right?
Oh,
Like
wow.
it's just like it feels like a visual experience while you're watching. I mean, Spiral saying that it's a lot of my stuff. I mean, it's Keegan DeWitt and Dabney Morris who did the musical arrangements. It's a lot of that stuff. It's there's some cool stuff with Joe Keery on there. There's some cool stuff with just like snippets of the movie, snippets of things that weren't in the movie, things like that. But the heart of it is, I was just when the band watching, the first thing I did to work on the film was I watched these Portland sessions, which are like 6 hours of footage, and I just edited them into these like basically 5-6 hour movies, which is just because Rob Kolodny, like I said, was bouncing around between two cameras. And so there's these two cameras, and I just went through all of the days, and that was my re-immersion into the music and into this footage. And I was like screaming from the rooftops, basically, like, you guys there's some really amazing moments in here and in the LA sessions, which were shot by Rob and Alex. Alex actually picked up a documentary camera for once and shot some footage there in LA as well. And those two sessions are incredible because you hear the band becoming the band that then will go on tour and conquer the world and blow everybody's minds, And like, so there's some incredible stuff in here that's on the soundtrack that is just like these gorgeous rethinkings of the songs that we know and love. That combined with like the musical versions and snippets and bits and pieces and little documentary moments here and there, I think it's a cool thing. It's a cool Pavement record. I would not have told you if you would have asked me like, hey, one day you're gonna be on a record. It's gonna say produced by Pavement and Robert Greene. I would say, that's stupid. That's a dumb thing you're saying to me. Why are you being mean to me? And instead, it's a dream I couldn't imagine come true. We need to get it done though, Scott. We got to actually get it done.
Yep.
That's amazing. So that will be coming out this year then.
Coming out as soon as possible.
Yep.
Okay, amazing.
Looking forward to it. I mean, I listened to those songs quite a bit, and it's really cool.
So Spiral, what do you do now that things are kind of slowing down for Pavement? Like, what are you doing?
I just recorded 18 new songs in LA last month with this guy Kelly Stoltz. I don't know if you've heard of him, but
yeah,
he's
absolutely.
a great songwriter and a great drummer. He's been playing drums with Robin Hitchcock recently, and so I just said, why don't you come and play some drums? So we did 18 songs.
Wow.
In LA at the place I always work at. So I'm kind of working through those now, and when I come over in May to do some of the premieres for the movie, I think I'm going to work on some of the songs. But yeah, I'm coming over in May to do a couple premieres in LA and maybe San Francisco. But yeah, no, I'm just here in Australia. Just bought a new house and laying the lawn, laying sod.
Putting your records away, you said. You got
Putting
your records out now.
away, trying to figure out and Pavement still, we just got offered to play a festival in Austin in September. I'm not sure if we're going to do it or not, but so the Pavement stuff is still in the pipeline. There's
That's great.
TV show that we might do, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. And so we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Sounds good to me. I'm just kind of happy for you. You know what I mean? Like when Pavement broke up, it was sad for me as a fan, but
yeah,
sometimes you project and you're like, oh, come on. Like these guys, They work so hard. These songs are.
I've had fun. I've had fun making my own music, but like
Yeah.
when we get together with the Pavement guys, there's nothing like it. It's and girl and Rebecca. I mean, it's just so so fun to be around them and making not making music, but playing those songs and kind of like Robert said, the songs take on a new life in the way we play them, and so that's really fun. And so hopefully we can keep doing it. And but yeah, it's still fucking up my life.
Mine too. And definitely Robert's, I can tell. Well, speaking of fucking up your life, at the end of every episode, I ask a very unfair question, especially if people are the artists who have made the stuff. But I have two different questions for you. So, Robert, I'll start with you. And this is so funny that we were talking about Wowee Zowee because I wrote this down before this conversation. But on a scale from a one-sided 7-inch to a 3-sided double album, what do you give Pavements the movie?
Oh my God. I mean, I think it's perfect.
There we go. So it's a 3-sided double album.
It's a 3-sided double record.
Excellent.
Yeah, because if you're expecting it to do everything, there is a blank side and it's not going to do everything.
That was the right answer. That's what I had here. See? 3-sided double album. I'm not messing around. It's true. So, Spiral, I'm going to ask you a different question, but on a scale of from 10 being the lowest and 60 being the highest. How many seconds of yourself BAing an antagonistic Lollapalooza crowd do you give the movie Pavements? 10 seconds of BAing a crowd to 60 seconds of BAing a crowd.
Oh man. I mean, it's when you Google me, it's like, that's what you get. You get Spiral and Lollapalooza. So, when Alex kind of made this the whole point of that thing, it's not the whole point, but it's, my kid just said the other day, like, she said, Coachella was on, and she said, my wife said, Dad played that twice. And she goes, what? You played Coachella? And I said, yeah. I said, we played Lollapalooza too. And she goes, oh, is that when you gave everybody the moon? I'm like, oh my God.
Well, I will say this. We know that if I asked you the same question, it would be a 3-sided double album. But the correct answer is 40 seconds.
40 seconds.
Because I will
say 50, but
it could be easily 50. I'm often wrong. But that's a lot of time that you spent up there giving that back to the crowd. And it was absolutely amazing.
That's hero stuff right there. We should.
You know what? Honestly, I wish they could have got this in the movie, but they didn't hit my ass. They did all of that mud. I didn't get any in my. I mean, I know. Nat says like, "Oh, my ass is so full of mud." They didn't get any.
You've heard that first here, folks. And yeah, maybe it could be part of like the DVD menu or something.
Yeah. Just Spiral saying they didn't get my ass.
Yes.
That's a good quote.
That's exactly it. You're free to cut it out of this episode and use it in anything you want. In the universe, perpetuity, you know how the deal goes. I want to thank you both so much. It was really nice to see you, Spiral. Really nice to meet you, Robert. Congratulations on everything, and I'm just happy for you. So, congrats.
Thanks for doing this. Nice to see you, Scott.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robert, good to see you, and talk soon.
Yeah, talk soon. Talk very soon. All right, thanks, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Revolutions Per Movie. We release new episodes every Thursday on your favorite podcast app and additional bonus episodes every Sunday on our Patreon. The show is a completely independent affair, so the best way to support the show is through our Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionspermovie, where you can get weekly bonus episodes and shows, exclusive limited edition flexi discs and records and CDs featuring guests that have appeared on the show, and other exclusive goods sent to you just for joining. You can follow us on social media at Revolutions Per Movie and also find out more information about our various guests in the episode show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week. Bye.